Good morning.
Hi.
معنا اليوم Antoine Jebara, co-founder and CEO of Myki, one of the leading cybersecurity firms, أكيد in Lebanon, أكيد in the MENA, and more in the world. So we're very proud to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Antoine. Antoine, tell us about yourself. Who is Antoine?
My name is Antoine Jebara. So as you said, I'm the CEO of Myki, and what we do at Myki is we're trying to revolutionize digital identity. So what's digital identity? Well, today we use our credit cards, passports, driver's license, passwords to prove our identity to people, to computers, etc.
I have like 20 passwords.
I have like 100. So it's a problem. Everyone has passwords. Everyone reuses the same passwords. Everyone reuses weak variations of the same passwords. This is why there's a big identity problem in the world today, because we get hacked very easily. And when we get hacked today, it's not like when we got hacked in the past. When you get hacked today, you lose everything that you have, like your money, your reputation, your career. Everything is like on the line. So you need to really safeguard your identity in a unique way that's really secure.
So how does it work?
Myki. So we have two offerings. A consumer offering, which is an app, the Myki Password Manager and Authenticator. And what it does, basically, it's an app that stores your passwords, credit cards, notes, IDs, addresses, anything related to your identity within it. Your data is stored offline, away from the cloud, so you only have a copy of your data. We don't have a copy of your data. No one has a copy of your data. It's heavily encrypted within the phone. You know where it is at all times. It's secure there. But the nice thing about Myki is that you can pair your phone, the app on your phone, with any computer or device that you have, which creates a communication link, a secure communication link between the phone and these other devices. Meaning that whenever I want to log in on my computer, for example, I just need to click a button on my phone and I log in on my computer.
Wow. So that secures a lot.
Like it changes the way people think about their identity. Before Myki and the way we used to do things, we used to think in terms of passwords. So I want to log into a specific account, I need a password for that account. With Myki, you start thinking in terms of access. So I want to access this account. I receive a push notification on my phone. Do you want to log in to Google? I click yes, put my fingerprint, Face ID, or a PIN code, and I'm in on my computer. So.
Wow, very interesting.
Thank you. You should
very
try
useful.
it.
I will.
Yeah.
I'm still, I have to stop all these bunch of passwords, and I keep forgetting them, and it's highly annoying. So I get what you do. Antoine, how did you start? How did Myki start? What's the story behind the company?
Yeah, so we started in 2013. Priscilla, my co-founder, and I were discussing different things. We were friends from a long time. And she mentioned her grandmother not remembering her Skype password. She wanted to talk to her son in Houston, so Priscilla's uncle in Houston, and she couldn't log in to her Skype account because she couldn't remember it. Like, it was a hassle. You know how it is for parents. Imagine how it is for grandparents. So we thought about it a little bit and said there should be a better way to do it. Like, she should be able to log in. And if she can't use a password manager today because it's so complicated, like the barriers to entry for a non-tech savvy person are humongous. So she needs something very simple that allows her to do a single thing, which is log in to her Skype account. So we came up with a USB device. The USB device had a fingerprint and a screen, and a fingerprint sensor and a screen. And it had all your passwords in it. They were stored offline in the device. So what she'd do is put her fingerprint on the sensor and then plug the USB device into the computer, and it would log her in.
Oh.
So super simple. It used to work without any sort of installation on the computer. So you just give it to someone with passwords, they can use it. So we applied to the MIT startup competition that was happening in Egypt that year, 2013. And we got shortlisted to become finalists, which was great for us because we didn't know anything about, we knew what startups were. I used to read TechCrunch, etc., but we never experienced it. I used to be a data loss prevention engineer. She used to be a landscape architect, so nothing related to the world of startups or entrepreneurship in general. So we applied, we got shortlisted, and we went there for the finals. We didn't win, but we got a lot of interest from different sorts of people, investors, potential users, etc. Because here, especially in the region, we are used to seeing copycats. So a very great model that works anywhere in the world that we do here. Yeah. So very often we do it really well, which is great, but like innovation lacks a little bit when it comes to like technical innovation, at least. So people, like a lot of investors started talking to us about Myki and looking at the potential of Myki. And the fact that it was a global product and it was solving a cybersecurity problem, which is one of the biggest problems in the world and it's not going anywhere, is appealing to people like that, like investors.
Oh, definitely. Security is a huge market. And
Yeah.
Everybody uses it. So
Today,
is anyone on the internet.
Yeah, like today, identity management is a $20 billion market and it's growing 11% year over year. So it's one of the biggest booming markets in the world. So we got a lot of interest from the investors there, etc. But we were inexperienced, like in terms of raising funds, next steps, concrete next steps.
That's the interesting part. I mean, for all the entrepreneurs out there that are starting, take me through your first months. How did it go? I mean, I guess, how did you get the funding? How did you start into that?
So so we met at MIT, Hala Fadil and Henri Assaili, who ended up investing in our second round of funding from Leap Ventures. And they told us it's a great product, but we have a Series B fund today. We're looking at you closely. Let's keep in touch and see what happens. And then when we came back to Beirut, we met with the Yafi brothers, Abdullah and Reis. So,
BNY.
Yes, they were setting up BNY. And we started talking about Myki and where we wanted to take Myki, etc. And they were very interested in it and liked the idea of having a global product that was solving a security problem. And we liked them, and I think that they liked us, etc. So there was good, what do you call it?
Synergies.
Yeah, synergies. Chemistry.
Love. Money.
Not yet, at the time. But, so we met them, and we were very happy about having met them, and they were, I think, very happy about having met us, and we were on a track to raise a first round of funding. So at the same time, we went to Dubai and met with the Beko Capital team, Amir Farha and Dani Farha, and Alvaro Abella at the time. And we had the same sort of synergies. So we came back to Beirut, and the iPhone 5S came out. And it was the first iPhone that had a fingerprint sensor. And then we had a meeting and said, okay, we're getting into something where we're building a USB device that has a fingerprint sensor, but there's an iPhone that's coming up that has a fingerprint sensor. So we're out of the market before we get into the market. Let's try to adapt the technology and convert this hardware product that has all sorts of problems associated with like building a hardware product, developing it, manufacturing it, and selling it. Let's turn it into an app. So we went back to the drawing board, thought about it a little bit, what are our values exactly, and this is where the idea of like decentralization and keeping your data offline came to be. So we thought that, okay, there's a lot of password managers today. They have two main problems. The first main problem is that they're complicated to use. You need to have a master password, you need to install different apps, you need to understand how it works, these sorts of things. The second problem is that these password managers, most of them, keep your data in the cloud. So the passwords are stored in an encrypted form in their own servers on the cloud. So you're at risk of them being hacked, of you losing your master password to a hacker. There are so many different attack vectors that can happen like around this sort of idea of having passwords in the cloud. So we said, okay, so as a mission statement, we're going to decide to protect the digital identity of users, and we'll do it by putting the user back in control of his digital identity. And we're going to do it by keeping the data offline in a decentralized manner across devices that the user owns. So we had a meeting with Abdullah, Reis, Amir, and Dani, and discussed it, and they liked the idea and said, okay, I think that you're ready to raise the first round of funding. And this is when we raised our first round. It was January 2016.
So you raised the money fairly quickly?
As soon as we decided to raise the money and we thought that we were ready to raise the money, it took us 9 months.
Okay.
Because it takes time the first time.
And it's important for a lot of entrepreneurs out there to know that, because they think they can pitch and get the money.
Yeah, that's the way it should be, because like there's a lot of due diligence that needs to happen from your side and from the investor's side. First of all, you don't want to invest yourself in something that's not going to span out. So you need to make sure that you're going into something concrete, that you know what you're doing.
You need
that
to believe in it.
Yeah, of course, like that's step 0. And at the same time, your investors need to be 100% certain that this is something that they want to get in. You are the team to do it. You can work together, and they're able to sustain you, like in different sorts of ways, either from an operational perspective or from a financial perspective, and etc.
Well, I know from what you said, I mean, 4 key elements, 4 key important lessons, I mean, I guess for entrepreneurs out there. One is, even initially you met these funds and they didn't give you the money immediately, but you kept the good relations. I'm unfortunately seeing a lot of entrepreneurs that just, they tell them no the first time and they just break the relation with the possible investors.
Yeah.
Second lesson is how you adapted and you changed and you accepted that you needed to change when the iPhone 5S came up. You re-adapted your whole processes to the reality of the market. That's also a big mistake some people usually do. They just don't adapt. They're stuck into their idea.
Yeah.
And 3, I mean, you set a clear mission. I see a lot of entrepreneurs on a daily basis, and I'm surprised how many times we get to see people with no clear vision or mission. They're just trying to do something, but they don't think of, that's my identity.
Yeah.
It's ironic. We're talking about securing identities, but that's the role.
Like, to go back about your points, like keeping the good relationship is super important, because most of the time, if you keep a good relationship, they'll either introduce you to someone that they know who will end up investing in you, or they'll end up investing until later on. Because keeping the relationship implies keeping them in the loop, implies getting their feedback in a continuous basis, so you know how they feel about what you're doing.
But what was the most difficult part in that? I mean, jumping into that fundraising, what was the most difficult part for you? What kept you up at night?
Yeah, so it was mainly the idea that we're building a global product that has to do with cybersecurity, and no one has done it before, at least in the region here. So investors, it isn't 100% in the ballpark of the investors, and we're out of our element. Like, at least in the beginning, in 2013, we were like, we don't know what's happening. Like, we don't know how we're going to raise funds, how we're going to take it to the next round of funding, how we're going to hire people, etc. So many like barriers that you need to cross. But we felt good about it, because we knew that we were building something that at least we needed desperately, that Priscilla's grandmother needed desperately, and that people in general, like when I go to anyone and tell them you have a password problem, there's no way they're going to say no. Like, they either have one password or a combination of this password that they use everywhere, which is equally bad.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, and you add 7. Like,
you add 7.
Exactly. So it's a big problem, because when hackers hack one account, then they get into
definitely.
all the other accounts.
Definitely.
Yeah. So going back to your point of to the timeline. We started the discussions with BICO and BYVP, and then decided that having them both as investors in the first round was a good thing. They were happy about it. We were happy about it. So we went through it. We decided to do it. So January 2016. The first thing that we did is we started looking for people that could be the core team of Myki. We already had Reja, who was our first team member, and he's our partner actually in the company. And
did he join as a partner, or
He joined as a partner. We created the Lebanese company. He's a partner in the Lebanese company, so he's a founder in the company. And Reja is really an amazing full stack developer. He's one of the best developers in the region, like hands down. And we were very lucky to have him on board. We were friends with him from university, Priscilla, Reja, and I. And Priscilla was friends with his brother. Her brother introduced me to Priscilla, actually. Like, so we were very close.
Use your connections. I mean, that's important. A lot of people come to us and tell us, come to me and tell me, I don't have developers. I'm like, just ask around.
Yeah. Actually, that's a very important point, and I'll get to it in a second. So Reja was here. Reja was core. Like, Reja can build anything by himself. If there's 10 Reja, you have the best product in the world. There's no 10 Reja, so you need to find.
I'll buy Reja from you.
Negotiable.
Actually,
no. So Reja was here, and I can also code. So I was doing the early things. But I can't write development code. So I can write code that's prototypes that you can show to investors, that you can show to early testers, but not code that's going to go to 1 million people. Like it's a different sort of exercise. So we had to find core people that would join the team. And from our connection, we started looking around and found like Junior, one of our first Android engineers. He was in McGill doing a master's. He came back to Lebanon. We did it, and then a couple of other people. And now we have an amazing team of engineers that are really like, all of them are full
How many
stack.
people are in McGill?
In total, we're 15.
Okay.
So
All based in Lebanon.
all based in Lebanon. All based in Lebanon, and all amazing developers. Like, it's so difficult to find quality engineers, especially when it comes to writing like a global product that's security related, etc. But we're very
How is
lucky
it going with the funds?
in terms of
Relationship on a daily basis.
our investors or new
Your investors.
It's really good. Like, they're amazing people. Whenever we need anything, they're here. Whenever they see something in the market that can benefit us, we're the first to know. Whenever there's an opportunity or a startup that they want to invest in that might compete or might complement us, we're in the meetings. So we can't ask for more than that.
It's important also because many of the successful startups like Myki that I've seen usually have a very good relationship with their investors, and that's important because we hear so many times conflicts and people who are just
it doesn't make sense because you have so many problems already and
true.
you're playing against the odds. You shouldn't like add problems on top of it. So this goes back to the idea of really picking good investors and then picking good companies to invest.
What's a good
in.
investor for you?
A good investor is someone that you can call at any time, ask him any question. If he doesn't know how to answer you, he'll find someone who can.
I like the description.
I was able to answer it really fast because this is something that happens to us very often. So we need answers about things, and like people like the Beko guys, Abdullah and Hala Fadil are amazing. Hala, for example, no way. Like, you need anyone on the planet, she can get you a call with this person within 24 hours. Like,
it's important to have strong investors with connections. And by the way, what you're saying here, the investor is not just money. The investor is connections, it's help, it's support, and that's important.
Like, money is easy. You can find a lot of investors that are not good investors, that just have money, that want to like bank you. You're not going to go very far unless like you're Mark Zuckerberg of whatever, and you can do it on your own. But like for regular people that are getting into this, at least like as a first startup, for example, there's no way you're going to get out of the water without having some sort of support.
Antoine, tell me, how did you? Let's continue into that amazing Myki journey. How did you start getting international? How did you go international?
Okay, so our goal from the beginning was to be international. We didn't want a regional product because we're not a regional sort of startup. We're building a global product that needs global exposure to start really getting traction. But the problem with that was that the product was really technical. Like, we're a decentralized solution, and they're becoming like they came into fashion now with blockchain, Bitcoin, etc. But like in 2013, 2014 was still the beginning like of things. And it's very difficult to build something that you can ship to market that's sustainable, that's secure, and that's very important, etc. So we started working on the product, and by September by July actually of that year, so January to July, we had a good prototype, that worked, that had early beta testers that tested it, etc. So we applied to TechCrunch Disrupt Battlefield in San Francisco, which is basically like the #1 startup competition in the world. It's done every year in San Francisco in September. They pick 25 startups that compete on stage, and like you get a lot of exposure. And we were really, really, really lucky to get accepted. So in July, we received an email saying that your product looks amazing. This is the future of whatever. It might be the future of whatever, like security, digital identity. We want to invite you to TechCrunch to pitch on stage. So from the moment we got this invitation to September, it was like full TechCrunch mode. Like, we had to have the product be super ready. We had to have our decks, like our pitch decks that we were going to present on stage to investors off stage ready. We needed to have our mission statements, anything, like the way that we talked needed to be perfect and in sync because we needed to be saying the same things. So we went into this hyper-focus mode until we got to September. And in September, we went to San Francisco. And this is where it really started to work for us because we got a lot of traction. So we went on stage. We didn't win the competition, but we got over 50,000 signups, which is great. And
so
we
you slept very well that night.
Yeah. Actually, no, because we were very bummed of losing. We don't like to lose generally. But
That's
it's
a sign
okay.
of a winner when you don't like to lose.
Yeah, so what happened is that we got a lot of traction, and we weren't ready to release the final product yet. So we said, okay, let's start a public beta for the consumer product, where we get people to sign up, etc. And we hinted at our enterprise product, and that was the end play. Like when we started discussing it with investors, our timeline was, let's start with consumers. As soon as we have a grasp of consumers, we understand how consumers think, we understand how to target them, how to acquire them, how to retain them, we'll get into enterprise, and this is where we'll start making money because our consumer offering is completely free. We don't believe in having people pay for digital identity. So we'll start with enterprises, and then we'll move to different things that I'll talk about in a bit.
I think it's an important point for everybody out there. I love how you always get back to the customer, the consumer first. There are so many people in love with their product out there and forgetting what the consumer really wants, and you keep getting back the consumer.
You can't get away from the consumer because
100%.
You have your assumptions at first. You can validate some of them via what do you call them? Like focus groups, etc. But then when the time comes to release the product, if you don't see traction, then your curves will...
It will drop quickly.
Yeah, it will drop really quickly.
Very quickly.
You cannot sustain these things with the marketing. So you need to listen to your customer. That's very important, etc. But, so we weren't ready in September to launch the final product. So we went on stage, sold it as if the product was extremely ready, but we're launching the public beta today, and there's no other way to do it. You can't go on stage and say that, we're not ready, but you can sign up if you want, and whenever it's ready, we'll let you know. So we got a lot of signups, and then we went back to Beirut and put a timeline. We said, okay, how much time would it take to really get out of beta and start acquiring users, converting the signups into actual users, etc. So it happened in May. We had thought April, it happened in May. In May, we launched the final version of the Myki Password Manager and Authenticator, which is a password manager that stores your data offline, away from the cloud, and it syncs in a peer-to-peer, end-to-end encrypted manner with other devices that you have, which allows you to log in seamlessly across your devices. So as an end user, you only have an app that has all your passwords in it. You click a button whenever you want to log in, it logs you in.
Where is Myki today?
Okay, so we launched it 9 months ago. We have 200,000 users today,
wow.
And we were just added to the top 3 list of PC Magazine for 2018, which is the most important list for password managers. So today we're considered one of the top password managers in the world. And whenever we got to this point, or at least we started talking with PC Magazine and decided to include us, this is where the switch ticked, and we decided to move into to start activating the enterprise mode, because we started to understand consumer. We know how it is. We know how people think there. We tailored the features. We fixed the bugs. We iterated. The user experience is understandable for end users, etc. Now it's time to bank on everything that we've done and start converting people into paying. And this is what will happen in the enterprise space. And Myki for Teams, that's our enterprise product. It's basically the same thing as Myki, but you use it in your company. Same values of Myki, so the passwords are stored offline and they're spread out across the devices.
And how's that going?
So we launched it at TechCrunch. They invited us at TechCrunch again in December in Berlin, and we got the stage for 5 minutes to talk about it and launch it on stage, etc. And it's been really great. We got over 1,000 companies that signed up to it after the thing. And there's a lot of traction today. We're still in the phase where we're fixing the bugs and we're adding the features and we're fixing the user experience. The same thing that we went through when we launched the consumer app, but it's going. I remember when we launched the consumer app, we had 30 users. So the first week we had 30 users, and we started to get worried. So we said, okay, 30 users is not impressive. You don't get that much funding and then get 30 users. That's not how it works. And we were looking at the numbers all day, trying to think what was going wrong. And we added all sorts of anonymous analytics to try to understand where users are dropping off, etc. And turned out it was a combination of things. One, the app was not fully mature yet, which is normal when you just launch an app. And two, we had to give it time. And you have to give it time because it takes time for the marketing machine to start. It takes time
That's
for the
also
SEO
critical.
to start.
A lot of people forget.
You're not going to get 1 million users the first day unless you have a viral product. If you have a good product, it will take time and great execution. It's very difficult, but you'll get there.
And this is to everybody out there. Please stop sending me business plans where you're going to reach 1 million users in a month. Not going to work. It's no 100%. Antoine, any habits you have? Any habits, successful, keys to success? You're obviously very successful.
I don't like to talk about us as successful people because we're still under successful is so relative.
No,
Success
but it's a good start. I mean, it's a long road, but I'm sure you're gonna get there.
We're on the right track.
You're on the right track.
So advice is you have to be patient, you have to be determined, you have to be agile at the same time and iterate, pivot, etc. And you have to be open to criticism, especially when it's harsh criticism.
True. Finally, you're in the cybersecurity field. You obviously do your research on this and assess the market. How do you assess that sector in Lebanon and in the MENA region? I know you're more looking into the catastrophic, huh?
Yeah. It is. We don't think about these things today here. There's no awareness. Let's start with the general population and then work our way up to the people that make the decisions. In terms of general population, there's no awareness about cybersecurity. So people know that people get hacked, but it's not our problem until it happens to us. That's the general trend globally. But at least there, you have mechanisms that ensure your privacy, like GDPR in Europe now that's protecting end users' privacy and security. You have different sorts of compliance things that need to be set in place. Companies in general care more about your security. The government cares about your security because it costs them money whenever you get hacked, etc. Here we don't see these sorts of things. So people don't think in terms of security. They think in terms of using online services online, giving as much information as possible without having to think about the consequences of doing these actions.
Does Antoine Jebara have a Facebook account?
No, actually, I do. I have all sorts of accounts. I'm not considered a person
You're not obsessed.
Not at all. Completely the opposite. I actually have some insecure passwords, but and I have a password company, so I shouldn't have any. But that
allows you to test.
That's the idea. That's what I say to people. But yeah, so people don't have this awareness. We actually started a YouTube channel to address this problem, the Myki security report. We initially had it in English, and it was going really well. People responded to it well, etc. But then we decided to do it in Arabic because we thought that we could reach more people about it. And the show is about cybersecurity in general, do's and don'ts, and best practices around cybersecurity. Our goal is to raise awareness, in the general population, about things that we do, very often stupid things, give our passwords to random people, write them on post-it notes, have Excel sheets with your clients' passwords that you share with your team, etc. So these are basic things that shouldn't happen, and we try to keep people aware about these things.
Myki security report.
Yeah, Myki security
on
report.
YouTube.
Yes, that's one. So this is the general population in general. Companies have a problem in terms of not thinking as well about passwords. So the Excel sheets that we talked about, weak passwords, not having two-factor authentication on account. It's really important. If an employee in your company gets hacked, one email, then the hackers can start sending emails from your companies to anyone in the world. If you're a security company like us, it's a catastrophe. If you're a different sort of company, it can really be a problem as well. And you can imagine how it escalates. If the employee has the same password in other sites that you use internally, then you have a really big problem. So in companies, it's a problem. It's a problem worldwide, but here we don't have any sort of compliance that you need to that you need to comply with. To follow. And in terms of government, this is where the real problem starts because we have computers that are outdated, we have operating systems that are outdated, we have people that don't know about cybersecurity. And did you hear about the scandal that happened 2 months ago? where they were stealing the users' phones and injecting malwares in
Right.
the phone in Lebanon.
Right.
And the EFF and a thousand a thousand security organizations worldwide pointed out Lebanon and put us on the spot, saying that this is what happens when you're in a country where there's no regulation, where cybersecurity is not a problem. You shouldn't do that. See this country, this is what you shouldn't do. So that's really a problem. Like, people shouldn't think this way.
Not good for Lebanon.
Yeah, but what can you do? Like, baby steps.
Use Myki.
You start with, Myki would help definitely. Like,
can
having
use
people
Myki.
that have strong password mitigates 99% of the problems that you can have. The rest is more common sense and just having people in authority make the right decisions. Very simple.
Hopefully we'll get there.
We will. It will take time, but we will.
Antoine Jebara, co-founder and CEO of Myki. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks.